This conference will now be recorded.
There we go. All right, great. We have plenty of folks that are arriving. And again, if you are calling in, I think we can follow the process. There is a chat box over on the side. Feel free to throw your name in there if you are on phone, because for the most part, we're seeing everybody else's names in the boxes. So please feel free to do that. So first off, thank you for coming this evening. We appreciate it. Coming, I suppose, turning on your video camera. What a bold new world we're in. My name is Aaron Markovich. I'm the Executive Director of Maryland Milestones, Anacostia Trails Heritage Area. And you probably know us from our greatest hits of the War of 1812 commemoration, trail development, and a variety of other projects. We've been working on Civil Rights Trail and other activities. I just want to give you a brief introduction to ourselves for those of you who may not know who we are. This is an opportunity to learn a little bit about us. Let me make sure, there we go. So again, video is being recorded. It'll be available 24 to 48 hours. Generally, we give a little bit of a longer time frame in case there is some sort of massive technical error that we may have to edit out. Again, I have muted everyone, and I will use that judiciously to make sure that we don't have too much noise in the background as we go along. Submit questions via the chat box, and you can certainly ask questions in there as we go. And if it's really important that we kind of catch it as we go, I may break in to Natalia's presentation and let her know. But otherwise, we'll kind of hold those to the end. I'm going to ask Kirsten and Grace to turn on your cameras for just a second so that we can see who you are. Kirsten is our Heritage Programs Manager, and she has oversight of the American Battlefield Protection Program grant, which I'm going to tell you about in a minute. And Grace is our brand new Trail Tourism Program Manager in a program that we're essentially developing out of whole cloth. That includes funding from something called the Community Investment Tax Credit. So if you're looking for a place to make a contribution this year and you want to get a tax credit on your state taxes, that's a really great program. If you give us at least $500, and you can catch me offline, and I'll tell you all about that. And that way it will help fund Grace's position. Kirsten's position is funded through these other grant programs. So thank you both. You can feel free to turn off if you need to. The heritage area covers the northern Prince George's region. As you can see, starts in Mount Rainier all the way to Laurel, over to Bowie, and it in particular covers this area right around Bladensburg, which is what we're talking about down here near the DC border. We have a heritage center in Hyattsville that's located within the Pyramid Atlantic Arts Center. That car is no longer there, unfortunately, but it was very cool while it was there. But we do have other bits of information about different historical moments, including the War of 1812, as well as brochures and information for folks to come by and pick up. And normally this kind of program would have been held in that space. So a bit of background to what it is that we're talking about. Sorry about that. The program that we're talking about grew out of a War of 1812 commemoration that started really actually even before 2010 to 2014. Tonight we're missing one of the big folks that was a participant in that, and his name's Ed Day. He was the director at Riversdale and is moving up within the park and planning system. But there are a few other faces that I saw in here. I saw Doug. I saw a few folks, Robert, etc. So some of you know this War of 1812 commemoration and all the stuff that we went through that really centered around a large scale programming around the county and ended in many ways with the Battle of Bladensburg reenactment in 2014, of which that image shows. That was a photo by Ralph Eshelman. and kind of shows the great things that were going on. We had reenactors from all over the country as well as from Canada, and we did our best to recreate a battle with well over 10,000 men with about 40 reenactors or so. So it was quite the thing. This also was the time whenever we were developing the Star Spangled Banner National Historic Trail. And in particular, there was development of sub areas such as North Point, Leonardtown, those kinds of places. And one of them was Bladensburg area. So we had folks that came from the Star Spangled Banner National Historic Trail, which is now based out of Fort McHenry. And we had them come and work with us on this. There was also an effort that was really led by State Highways Administration to develop a regional management plan for the battlefield and figure out how it is that we wanted to accomplish things. So after the programs finished in 2014, everything kind of went up on a shelf, as these things do for a short period of time. And I then pulled that plan down off of the shelf and said, we maybe need to update this and really do an assessment of what it is that we think we can get done. And I applied for and received an American Battlefield Protection Program grant, which really provided the funding to have a staff member who could do this process of clarifying the management plan and update it to create kind of an action matrix, something that tells us, here's what we proposed to do, here's what we did, here's what we hope to accomplish, here are the things that just are never going to happen because it's too complicated to ever make that happen, even though it was a pie in the sky dream. And so we have this grant. That's what Kirsten's job is all about. And one of those things that popped up was a small squiggle of a line that showed a potential trail that could be built in Colmar Manor. So I started having some conversations with folks in the region, particularly Ann O'Neill, who is with the Rivers and Trails Conservation Assistance Program, and you're going to find out more about what that program is. And she suggested I apply for their technical assistance program to help support the development of a concept plan around this trail. And so that is what we've been doing. We have been doing more regional trail programming. We've been working with the Capital Trails Coalition, which is where some of you may be coming from tonight, and looking at how we can bring more tourism off of the Anacostia River Trail into this region. How can we connect riders and visitors on bicycles and walking? How do we get them to the historic sites, the artistic sites, the natural resources sites? How do we get them to the businesses? And that's really where Grace's work is overlapping here. So that is a quick background to what it is that we've been working on. And I would like to go ahead and turn it over. So I will close that and stop sharing that. And then Natalia, you should still be a presenter. And I will introduce Natalia, who is from Rivers Trails Conservation Assistance Program. And she's going to get her screen set up. There we go. Beautiful. And then I don't know if I need to unmute you. There you go. You should be unmuted now.
Okay, can you hear me?
Perfect. There you go. And I'm going to go ahead and turn off my camera and let you have at it. And Natalia, if we have any questions that do pop up during the process of this, I may break in that maybe needs you to stop for a moment or something. But otherwise, I'm going to let you get into your flow and let you introduce your crew.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. Well, good evening, everybody. My name is Natalia Sanchez. I'm an outdoor recreation planner with the National Park Service Rivers Trails and Conservation Assistance Program. With me tonight, and I'm going to ask them to turn their camera on for a little bit, are Tomas Deza, also an outdoor recreation planner. Hello, Tomas. I see that we also have Victoria Slaughter, and Tori is part of our fellowship program, which provides young professionals with an opportunity to get real life experience in outdoor recreation projects. She may be somewhere in the crowd. And then we also have Daniel Colombo, also a fellow with us, who unfortunately couldn't be here tonight. So to continue, did that screen change? Aaron, if you wouldn't mind.
Yes. Yep, you're
Okay,
good.
great. It is not changing on my end, so I apologize. Okay, so tonight we're going to do a brief introduction into the RTCA program. I know most of you are familiar with it, but for those of you that are not, we'll give a quick introduction. And then also do a bit of an introduction and an update on the Dueling Creek Heritage Trail project. So for the project specifically, we will highlight the vision for the trail, the partners that are involved in the project, the potential routes for the proposed trail, and the potential next steps. And then, as Aaron mentioned, we'll open it up for Q&A along the way. So starting with RTCA, the National Park Service manages more than park units and other designated sites. So the mission of the NPS also includes working with partners to extend recreation and conservation benefits around the country. One of the programs focusing on extending recreation and conservation is our program, RTCA. So we provide free planning and technical assistance for recreation and conservation projects that are led by local community groups, nonprofits, tribes, state, and local governments. We are not consultants. We do not espouse a particular point of view or make decisions for the community. Instead, we are partners and we are neutral facilitators. So as partners, we work with community groups so that they receive the assistance that they really need and ensure that that assistance gives them the tools to implement a project. So our program has an annual application, and our assistance typically lasts from 1 to 2 years, but sometimes longer, depending on the need of project partners. Our projects typically fall within 5 focus areas: health, conservation, youth, organizational capacity, and partnerships. But we also work on projects that fall outside of these categories. As you can see on the right-hand side, we offer a variety of services, but our assistance can be tailored to the specific needs of project partners. So for this particular project, Maryland Milestones applied for technical assistance for the development of a concept plan for the proposed trail. So our program works all across the nation, and in the last 20 years, alongside our partners, our project partners, we have assisted on approximately 3,000 community-led projects. We have provided access to and conserved more than 19,000 miles of river corridor, and we have assisted with the creation of more than 32,000 miles of close-to-home trails. In this 20-year span, our assistance has impacted an estimated 6,000 communities across the country and approximately 60 million residents living within 1 mile of this project, something that I think gets to the point as to why we're very excited to be involved in this particular project at Colmar Manor. So as we transition to the Dueling Creek Heritage Trail, the goal for project partners is again to develop a concept plan for the proposed pedestrian and bicycle trail. So this concept plan would highlight the vision for the trail, the potential trail routes, as well as next steps that provide general recommendations on community engagement that allows residents and stakeholders to have a voice, examples of signage and interpretive materials that are inclusive, trail safety features and other design elements, and potential funding opportunities for trail development. So Aaron just covered this in his presentation, but the vision for the proposed trail is not new, as he mentioned. The vision was first introduced in the sort of line on the map that you will see on the left, and this was part of the 2012 Comprehensive Management Plan for the Star-Spangled Banner. And in the plan, you may see a cursor on the screen. This line right here that would connect a trail that would connect the dueling grounds located right here with the larger Anacostia River Trail network and eventually with the waterfront. So this is something that we're looking to continue exploring in 2020. And the 2012 plan also makes mention of future interpretive signage and media telling stories about the military history of the area. Many of you are very familiar with this image here, but these are some existing interpretive panels near the Dueling grounds on Bladensburg Road. And then there are others along the Dueling grounds further into Colmar Manor and then along the Anacostia River Trail. So we see that there's, while the line and the plan may have been put on a shelf, some of the to-do items were made a reality. So is the 2012 vision for the trail relevant today, now that we're in 2020? And the answer is yes, of course. The proposed trail will continue to honor the area's ties to the War of 1812 and the Star-Spangled Banner through signage opportunities. One of the things that we're exploring in this concept plan is how to incorporate untold stories of Black or African American and Native peoples and their impact during the war. The COVID-19 pandemic has brought to light the importance for all communities to have adequate access to outdoor recreation. So the proposed trail will also be an opportunity to create safe and close to home opportunities for area residents to recreate outdoors and to learn about not only the military history of the area, but also that of the natural environment. And last, the proposed trail has the potential to increase access to the larger Anacostia River Trail network, and of course promote access to the Anacostia River and the water-based recreation opportunities that are available at the Bladensburg Waterfront Park. And this includes the water trails that are part of the Star-Spangled Banner and others in the area. So this project is in its very early stages. This year the focus has been on exploring a concept for the trail and what it would look like. And the information that we're sharing with you today including the vision for the trail, comes directly from our engagement with the core project partners, which include Maryland Milestones, the town of Colmar Manor, Anacostia Watershed Society, as well as some of the divisions within Parks and Planning Commission. So when we started the project back in November of 2019, we've also started the engagement with other key stakeholders. And these are some of the stakeholders we have connected in since November. And the idea has always been to introduce the project and most importantly, to receive feedback on the concept for the trail, something that of course we're looking forward to tonight as well. So currently, project partners have identified 4 potential trail routes as a way to introduce the community to the various options for the Heritage Trail. It is important to note that all of the proposed trail routes would be located on Park and Planning owned land. So starting with Route 1, and like every other route, the goal is to connect the Dueling grounds located right here, if you see my cursor, with the community park located here, and eventually with the waterfront. So this extent of the trail is starting from the Dueling grounds to Lawrence Street, and this is where a footbridge is currently located. It would be the baseline recommendation for the proposed trail, and this is something that project partners would really like to see happen or be on the ground, this extension right here. The trail would then continue following the Dueling Creek and eventually travel along this first area of the park, eventually connecting with the Anacostia River and then the waterfront. One reason why we're highlighting some of these community assets, such as the community garden that you see here, the community park and playground, and then Robert Yost Community Park, is that the trail has an opportunity to connect some of the outdoor recreation amenities that exist in Colmar Manor. And this sites or assets in a way could also be the location for future signage that explores not only the military history of the area, but also that of the natural environment and some of the changes this area has seen throughout the years. So moving on to Route 2. Route 2 will probably now be familiar to you. This was that line on a map that was in the 2012 comprehensive plan for the Star-Spangled Banner. So in similar fashion, the baseline recommendation of connecting the Dueling grounds to the footbridge located here at Lawrence Street is still in place. And then the trail will continue following Dueling Creek. And then instead of continuing along this area of the park, it would tie in to the existing park road, eventually connecting with the Anacostia Trail, and then giving access to the waterfront. In similar fashion, the community assets are able to sort of be connected for the community and also provide future placement for signage. Route 3, slightly different than Route 1 and 2. As you see, it will follow the baseline recommendation of this extent of the trail. When the trail connects with the footbridge located here at Lawrence Street, the trail would then travel west towards the community center and town hall. And the idea would be that the trail would cross through an adjacent parking lot and access the park road located right here through a small access path. So currently, this is a way that park users are using this access path to enter the park and access the parking area. And something else that this trail will give access to is that in connecting with the community center and town hall, it could provide access to facilities. So there are restrooms, there's a gym in the town hall, and safety sort of opportunities as well for trail users. In regards to signage, this particular route could provide an opportunity to take advantage of the viewpoints that exist towards Lincoln Cemetery, and again, explore some of the other history and heritage located in the area. This is not a preferred route. However, it does offer a potential solution in the event that routes 1 and 2 are not feasible. And then the last route would be Route 4. So this is actually the current connection from the Dueling grounds to the waterfront and the Anacostia River Trail. So this is how park users currently access the park. So in the event that Parks and Planning rejects the previous routes, there exists the opportunity to formalize a trail along or on the park road through signage and road marking. And in regards to interpretive interpretive materials and signage, this road also provides an opportunity to take advantage of the existing views of the cemetery. So what do next steps for the Dueling Creek Heritage Trail look like? So the concept plan is highlighting 4 specific next steps that provide general recommendations on community engagement and something that allows residents and stakeholders to have a voice in the development of the trail. It would provide examples of signage and interpretive materials that are inclusive and explore diverse themes. It would also provide examples of general trail safety features for consideration, and of course, potential funding sources for trail development. So starting with community and stakeholder engagement. So we all know that engaging communities early on in the process of trail development is an important step to ensure that the vision and priorities of the trail benefit all community members equitably, something even of more importance today. So for this project, the process for engagement has been divided into 3 individual groups, and again, with the goal of collecting different perspectives. So we have the elected official groups, and the town of Colmer Manor is a partner in this endeavor, but there is the opportunity to be broader and to engage some of the other port towns in the area. The heritage community, as Aaron introduced in his slide, is a huge component of this project, and they have a lot of stake for not only their involvement in 2012, but to explore the history of Colmer Manor and the port towns. And then we have community stakeholders in general. So this involves community residents in Colmer Manor in the port town, groups such as the Friends of the Dueling Creek, which is a group that we have also engaged, and then as well as some of you are part of the groups that, whether they're mentioned here or not, would need to be continued in their engagement to gather feedback for this trail. So moving towards signage and interpretive materials. So the concept plan includes recommendations on how these materials can provide visitors with the necessary information to safely navigate the trails while learning about the important history of the surrounding landscape. So just to give you a few examples, some interpretive materials can recognize the stories of Black or African American and Native peoples and the role during the War of 1812. So for example, future signage can include first-person accounts of Lothian men, such as Charles Ball, and their experience during this period of time. Materials can also highlight the effects of human intervention on the landscape and the development of Colmar Manor and the surrounding area. For example, how the straining of the Anacostia River in the 1950s changed the original flow of the river. And this image that you see here is an aerial view of Colmar Manor in 1938. And if you Google Colmar Manor now, this looks very, very different. Another thing to explore is the ecosystem and the natural environment. So Colmar Manor Community Park is located within the Dueling Creek Natural Area, and the trail will be located within that area as well. So providing materials that can educate visitors on the variety of flora and fauna that call this area home would be an important feature to include. So to provide users with a sense of safety and control over their surroundings, directional and interpretive signage, such as art installations and street crossing signs, can ensure that users remain aware of their orientation and remain engaged with the relevant content. So this image that you see here on the bottom left, for example, it gives us an image of how the flat grassy field at the dueling grounds can provide a great opportunity for a 20 paces installation using flat stones. So something that represents the steps that a dueler would make during a duel. This would allow visitors to visualize the specific rules of this feature. Other signage opportunities include adding art installations to the fences along Dueling Creek. So programs such as the county's Art on the Trails programs could provide an opportunity to enhance this natural feature and can provide a new way to engage residents with the trail. So a key priority for project partners is to ensure that all users feel safe when engaging the trail. The concept plan provides general recommendations on trail design elements that ensure adequate access to the trail by community residents. For example, this image that you see on the left is a social trail that residents appear to be using to access the park. This is something that we encountered during various visits. So this in the future could be a potential access route that could be formalized and considered in future development. Of course, to improve the comfort and safety of users traveling on the community park road, the goal of maybe adding share lane markings to the pavement could be a way to enhance that level of comfort and safety. In regards to road crossings, routes 1, 2, and 3 are expected to navigate through 3 separate road crossings. So adequate signage and sightline for drivers and trail users should be maintained in order to ensure that there's adequate and safe sort of access and crossing to those areas of the trail. And then lighting, of course, is another key priority for partners. And lighting on a trail can reduce negative behaviors. And of course, it increases visibility and provides a feeling of safety for any user. The concept plan also provides a list of funding sources available for trail development. So we're including a list of sources at the federal, state, local, and nonprofit level. So just to give you a few examples, at the federal level, we have the Outdoor Recreation Legacy Partnership Grant, and this is through the National Park Service. And this grant offers help to create and improve state and local parks and other outdoor recreation areas, particularly in underserved communities. And the grant ranges typically, $300,000 to $1 million. At the state level, we have NDOT, the Bike West Network program, and the program supports projects that maximize bicycle access, fill missing links in the state's bicycle network, and enhances last mile connections to work, school, shopping, and transit, something that sounds very similar to this particular trail. And here at the bottom, you see that the program offers or requires a minimum of 20% of the project cost as match. And then at the nonprofit level, the Chesapeake Bay Trust Community Engagement Mini Grant. So this is more of a programmatic grant, and this program is designed to engage residents with activities such as stream cleanups that enhance communities and improve natural resources. So programmatic opportunities can be a way to engage residents with an asset of the community that maybe they have never been engaged before, and a way to connect them to the proposed trail. And with that, thank you so much. And I will pass it off to Aaron for Q&A.
Thank you, Natalia. Hang on, let me get my camera back here. If you could maybe just take us back to the different options, starting at 1, and we'll just have a quick little conversation before we get into some of this. There are some great information bits that are going on the side in the chat box. One of the questions that came up was, can we receive a copy of the slides? And we will absolutely make that available to folks for you to dig in a little bit deeper. And this is going, towards a final report. Now, I want to be very clear and note that this is the goal for this project was more about creating a conceptual project and a feasibility type of program, rather than getting deep into the details of exactly what we're going to do, and this is this stage and this is this stage. We're not to that. In some of the transportation worlds, you hear of 30% design and 60% and all those kinds of things. We're not even to that kind of level here. What this is creating is a bit of an advocacy document that we can use to push the concept along, especially to Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission. They're the ones who control the majority of this land, and therefore need to be the ones who are on board with the concept. And I did see Bob Patton is here and Jordan is here, and there may even be another park and planning folks here. They are the ones that we're really having a conversation with. We want to keep that going. There are a variety of technical issues that have to be resolved before this thing could even become a reality. The most important that some people may know about Colmar Manor is that the community park is a former dump. And therefore there are some complexities to building a trail on top of that. So there are many more questions that need to be resolved before we can even get to that stage. But this gives us a sense of fleshing out that original green squiggle and creating something that's a little bit more in depth. Now the first ones that I wanted to hit on is actually, I'm gonna reverse myself and take it back. Karen noted that in routes 2, 3, and 4, they have a very steep hill to access Colmar Manor Park, which makes it difficult. And so I don't know if you want to show us number 1 there, Natalia, just to kind of emphasize why it is we even looked at that route. Yeah, go ahead. So route 1 there, the idea is to bring it down through an area that was already somewhat cleared out. Now, we don't have a full idea of what exactly occurred there, but we think it may have been an access route for heavy trucks and vehicles. And it may have something, again, to do with the dump aspect of this. But that was the idea, in very particular, Karen, is to try to avoid the steep hill access. For anybody who has ridden this particular piece that already exists up into the park, it's a very steep hill currently, and then you have the very steep hill coming down off of it to get back out. So that was the idea. Bob notes that maybe a graph of the elevation changes might be helpful, and that's something we can certainly take a look at. But I wanted to roll back to Marion's comment that she had about Route 1 and 2 disturbing natural areas which are important to the health of Dueling Creek. And this alignment would be problematic. I don't know if you want to speak a little bit to we did have the meeting with the folks from Friends of Dueling Creek, and had a small conversation about that, that we didn't dig deep into that. Natalia, do you want to back some of that up?
So what I would, that's a great question, and thank you for that, for bringing that up. So yes, part of Colmar Manor Park is located within the Chesapeake Bay critical areas. So for area 4 and 5, which are sort of the highest level where development is, is a no-no, there is opportunity to develop outdoor recreation opportunities such as a trail. And the program is very clear about the ability to do so, as long as, of course, there are ways to mitigate the disruption to the surrounding environment. So the inclusion of bioswales to ensure that water runoff, can be mitigated. And so, that this is something that we're including in the concept plan and something that we're aware. But as Aaron mentioned, this is the very early stages. This is just an idea at the moment that will further need to be explored.
Absolutely. And the next comment that was made here, and I may actually ask Doug to come on screen and explain just a little bit more. So I'll give Doug McElrath that heads up. He was noting the idea of a broader interpretive vision than just military and dueling history. And maybe we can talk about that a little bit. He indicates the trail has potential for narratives related to Underground Railroad and horse racing industry, horse racing history. I don't necessarily know anything about that. I don't know, Doug, if you wanted to throw out your horse racing comment there.
Sure. I've been doing some research on, of course, as some of you know, I've been looking at Bladensburg history for a long time. There was a racetrack in the late 18th century where Colmar Manor essentially is located right now. And that is actually the very first time the term Bladensburg races was ever used. It was advertisements by the Bladensburg Jockey Club to come to the races that were held across the river there.
Okay.
The Underground Railroad is the fact that the old Bladensburg Road was the route toward Baltimore, and we have several documented incidents of slaves successfully using that route to get to Baltimore. And so I think that would be another interesting narrative that would be passing right past this trail, and surely they would have hidden in wooded areas when the patrols started chasing them.
That's awesome. Those are things that I certainly did not know anything about the horse racing at all. And I just wanted to point out, Dave had put a link to the dueling grounds and sort of its history there. One of my big interests was the idea of that 20 paces interpretive element. How can you show people what a dual spacing would have looked like? How would you have done that? So I don't know, Natalia, if you wanted to add anything on to some of that conversation, or if that was what we needed.
Well, I'm also curious about the races and the Underground Railroad as well. And, just to expand on the interpretive theme, here we're just sort of giving you a quick snippet of what it is that we're doing, but the goal for at least the signage and interpretation material, so this is something that typically is not included in a concept plan, but it is something that Maryland Milestones wanted to see. And in researching this area, we understand the history, military history, War of 1812, Battle of Bladensburg is really important. But again, there are sort of other untold stories that could be incorporated into existing signage. We, of course, also have another theme, the development of Colmar Manor. So this area went from a bustling colonial-era seaport to experiencing significant demographic changes from, the 1980s up to today. We've seen a significant change in the race and ethnicity of residents in Colmar Manor. And the third theme being the ecosystem of Colmar Manor. And this covers not just the Dueling Creek natural area, but the changes for straightening the river, the addition of the levees, and in essence, how human intervention has changed the landscape.
I'm going to go ahead and take Dan's comment here. Will this, thank you for being excited and great to see you, Dan. Will any of this or any other projects work to connect neighborhoods or businesses along Bladensburg Road, signage, sharrows, bike pedestrian infrastructure, et cetera? This particular project isn't necessarily looking at that, but we introduced Grace a little bit earlier. And that's really where Grace comes into play here, is that if this trail, or based on what trails exist there, she's looking at how we make that town to trail connection. So she's going to be looking at that all over the area, looking at these different places that are connected, and making sure that the businesses are integrated with that. Again, not particularly this specific project that we're looking at tonight, but certainly if you want to follow up, and we can chat about that with Grace. And then, so going back to the question of the impacts on natural environments, if we can for a minute, Marion again said there's an opportunity to include a small stream restoration in the existing park south of Newton Street and west of 39th. And then Bob kind of said, you know, he was looking to have a little bit more detail on how the trail would create negative impacts. I don't know, Marion, do you want to jump in and talk to us a little bit more about some of your questions and thoughts?
Sure, Aaron.
Thank you.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep, absolutely.
Great. Both DPWT and the Department of the Environment have stream restoration programs. The Dueling Creek is largely channelized in this area, and where it comes through that park, we walked through there with Mike Clark, who's an expert on stream restoration, and he said there may be enough area there, and Pat and I went through there today. It looks like, I mean, that's a really nicely used park, but the flat area that doesn't have any trees is it's not a good shape to really do much with. There's a lot of exercise equipment there and a walking path, and that's what's used mostly. But that whole you know, floodplain there could be used for stream restoration. And as you can see where how Dueling Creek goes through there, it's pretty straight. And anywhere you can create a little meander, it really helps slow the water down. As far as that area that goes south of Colmar into the wooded area, a lot of the area around here used to be, that's where the Anacostia used to flow. And there's some plant communities that are still intact. So even taking out a small amount of trees is really probably not a great idea. And the grades there are kind of rough. I mean, the streets there are pretty nice. And, you know, you can go down Lawrence Street and connect with, you know, that park, the Legion Park. But yeah, staying out of the natural area would probably be a good idea. The existing roads there go under trees and all. It's very pleasant. And then to disturb a natural area that's working hard to protect that stream is kind of not a great plan as far as you know, I'm concerned.
And Natalia, I'll let you respond to that if you have some thoughts. But I do want to note that there was conversation with Jim Foster and the Watershed Society a little bit. It could probably go further, and again, the Friends of Dueling Creek. But Natalia, do you have any other responses?
No, I don't, Marian, but thank you so much for the feedback. This is exactly what we're hoping to get tonight. So thank you.
There was, Gordon asked a question, says that this trail would connect to the Anacostia River Trail that currently starts off in the parking lot by the basketball court. Yes, that's correct. That river trail extension kind of comes down this side it's not the river trail that goes all the way into DC, but it's the river trail piece that kind of branches off and just goes up into this park. Yep. So that's exactly what we're looking at. And then there were several suggestions in here of different ways of building things. Karen noting, striping bike and walking lanes on the roads through Colmar Manor, some curb stops, flex posts to protect and designate walking and biking areas. Bob has some thoughts on the types of guidance signage. And so that's where we are with that is that we're not to that point yet. Again, this is the idea is this is sort of an advocacy document. Is this project generally something we would like to see? Is this project something that the community might support? Understanding Marion's comments about environment, we're not even to a point where we would be getting into environmental review, but in general sense, is there some interest in this? And that's really where we are. So if folks have other comments that maybe you don't want to put into the chat, or you're ready to make a statement on screen, maybe pop up and give me a little wave on your video and I can get you. Or if you are a caller, one of our couple of callers, we can have you pop in there as well. Does anybody have comments they want to make? I'll give you a couple seconds to find the mute button. And if you can't find the mute button, I can. Uh-oh, I think Ellen, hang on. Let me see if I can take you off of mute. I think you might still be muted. Let's see if that does it.
Aaron, actually, after all that, I didn't really have any comments. I'm looking to see if Robert Race is on the call, though.
I did see Robert, yeah. Other folks, I think I saw Laura maybe popped in there for a second.
I'm here.
Do you have any?
Laura Conley from Park and Planning.
Hi there. I just saw you turn on. I wanted to make sure that if folks had comments, they were popping in or out. I'll give you another 10 seconds. Oh, okay, yeah, hang on, there's Gordon. Go ahead.
Hey, would you mind? Thanks. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
Would you mind explaining like the basics of what your group is aiming with this? So from what I understand it so far, it sounds like you guys are a group of people who support this project and are kind of trying to get community activism around it so that you can go to the larger planning authorities who then have the funding and the planning resources to do like the 30% design or whatever.
Yep, that's it. And our organization, Maryland Milestones Anacostia Trails Heritage Area, we're a nonprofit that covers this region. We're actually funded in part by a state grant and some other different things. So our job really in this process is to facilitate conversations like this and bring in the groups that need to be here. So that's what we're all about. Great, thank you. Other questions?
Aaron, can you hear me?
There you are. Hey, Robert.
Hey there. So Ellen and I are on here. We were invited, but we wanted to talk about the two other national historic trails that connect to the heritage area. So I see the Anacostia River there on the right of the screen. So of course the Captain John Smith Chesapeake Trail connects with your heritage area, correct?
Yes.
And then also the trail that Ellen and I have been working on. I've been working on with John Sauer and Ellen since before 2006. Development of the Washington Rochambeau Revolutionary Route,
Yes.
which also goes through Bladensburg. So what our organization, the National Washington Roshabelle Revolutionary Route Association, are working on the historic military route as they came through Bladensburg. So there were different parts of the French army that camped in Bladensburg, and it pretty much, as they left Bladensburg, they pretty much, the wagon train, that is, and the cavalry, the French cavalry, pretty much follow the part of the Star Spangled Banner National Historic Trail military route. There were two routes out of Bladensburg following the battle. One was up the Bladensburg Turnpike to Capitol Hill, as we know, and the other one was following the Georgetown Road. So the Army went in two different directions, maybe even three, but that's the two they were supposed to retreat and fall back towards Georgetown. So they Bunker Hill Road is the old Georgetown Road. And I sent you a map by email, Aaron, and
Okay.
it basically lays it out. It connects what's left of the Georgetown Road, which is in pieces. So there's a couple detours here and there as you go across the district, but it technically connects Bladensburg with Georgetown, following the historic routes like Florida Avenue, like Bunker Hill Road, like parts of Michigan Avenue. So it's we've been working with Eric, talking to Eric Brenner and the East Coast Greenway people, Dan Pascal. They're very interested in this bicycling. It's a bicycle route to connect Georgetown to Bladensburg, following this historic road. So it's you already have waysides on Bunker Hill Road along the B&O track as you come out of Bladensburg once you cross the river, as you know.
Right.
And then you have to cross Rhode Island Avenue to pick up Bunker Hill Road again. That pretty much takes you all the way to Michigan, and then Columbia Park, past Howard University, and then on down to pick up Florida Avenue once you go down Sherman. And that takes you all the way to P Street Bridge and then into Georgetown, across the Rock Creek. So it's all laid out for you there on that map we sent you. And our goal is, as far as our organization, is documenting the historic route, because there will be an auto route that the Park Service is also working on, which is more of a driving point to point, but it pretty much follows the highways and byways and kind of detours and basically the historic military route. So we sort of have the same goal with two different methods of trying to tell the story, because people who follow the auto route, even though it makes it convenient and it will have planned hubs and things like that. I'm not sure if your site is your heritage area is a hub. Historians are going to say this is not the route. This is not the historic route. So we had the same discussion with Suzanne Copping when we were working on the Star Spangled Banner Trail. There were bypasses and long detours around the historic route. But I mean, it's good to just document it, and because we're a nonprofit, we can actually tell that story on our, through different website, and other types of print material. So it's there, and it doesn't, it's documented once and for all, because this Georgetown Road, again, that was a 300-year-old road. Remember, Georgetown was there as a port on the Potomac long before Washington D.C. was. Georgetown was in Maryland, so that road is not just a military campaign road for a couple of different military campaigns. It is a colonial port road connecting Baltimore to Georgetown. We still have pieces of the Georgetown Road in Baltimore, still named Georgetown Road, up in Morrill Park and other places. So that's all. You have anything to add, Ellen, to this? I think she's muted.
No, no, that's fine, Robert. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. And that's good information for us to have in there. Just before, I think I saw Byron, you were going to have a comment, and I'm going to come right back to you. I just wanted to note there were 2 questions on Cottage City. Cottage City is across the street of Bladensburg Road. We have met with the community of Colmar Manor. We've invited them in. We've had a meeting with the city council on that. We are going to make sure that we've targeted, once we sort of have this plan available, we're going to have some conversations with the neighbors that are most directly impacted and have some conversations with them. But we haven't really gone into Cottage City because this trail really ends in Colmar Manor at the Dueling Creek and stays entirely within Colmar Manor. Officially, Dueling Creek continues on into Cottage City, and that part of the creek is actually almost natural over there, but it is much harder to actually access and get into. So just wanted to put that out there. All right, Byron, go ahead.
Yeah, so I apologize if you talked about it. I've been spending time between 2 calls here tonight, so I apologize for that. But I was just checking to see if any part of the trail plans here kind of took in consideration walking paths that may exist and kind of incorporate some of that. I'm not really a planner. I work for the Parks and Recreation Department, but on the recreation and programming side, not in Laura's shop. But I did take a class at the University of Maryland, and one of the things they talked about is when they build new places, they don't always put the sidewalks in first. They kind of let folks walk naturally, and then wherever those natural places are, they kind of put sidewalks in or trails afterwards, after they see where the usage is. So I don't know if any consideration was given to some existing access to Colmar Manor Parking specifically that people are walking, and maybe using that as a basis for where a good trail would be and help with connectivity.
Natalia, do you want me to start or you want to go?
I can start, and let me just move slides. So Byron, if you see this image on the slide, trail safety features on the left, so this is a social path. It's a very well-worn path that residents are using to enter the park. So this is the image of what it looks like, and let me just find a map to show you where it is located. So it is stepping off over Canyon Street, located right here, and then eventually connecting with the park road. So this is, as a social path, we assume that, again, users are using it to access the park, and a recommendation that the concept plan highlights would be the opportunity to consider to formalize this trail or this access path into part of the actual trail. So that is one. I can show you an image of the other one, and this was a suggestion that came from our engagement with Mayor Barrow from the town of Colmar Manor, of an access path to the Anacostia River trails on, this would be the east side. So basically this side right here facing the river, and there used to be an existing access path that it looks like it was taken away, but it is something that residents in this area of Colmar Manor, currently have to walk all the way here to the Anacostia River Trail, or would have to go to the park road to access the park. So that would be just another general recommendation that the concept plan will include.
As Marion says, a social path is very, very steep, but we know with just the sheer volume of folks playing soccer and using the sports fields, they are looking for those connections into the community. And as was mentioned, the city it very much is interested in making that connection on that, I guess, east side of town to get up into the trail system. So it's there definitely are some of those social trails. And the other thing I'll mention is of course the piece that is going from the dueling grounds itself to the street crossing where that boardwalk path goes up in is very wide open types of stuff. As Marion said, it's kind of squishy, and that will have to take some evaluation, but people are already using that route. But that bridge, that footpath is definitely a place where people are already walking. So great question, and some of it that we've looked at, that part between the street and the access road is certainly the part, as Marion points out, that would require kind of the most change. It's not being used that way currently. So that is something to consider. As Bob points out, many parts of the route are open areas covered with lawn or meadow, passable in current conditions. We sort of slogged through one of the routes and got ourselves pretty wet in the muck. So that would have to be some analysis of that. Before I continue with any other questions, I wanted to roll back here. There were a couple of comments from Dave, particularly about the DC 2040 trail network and connecting in with those things. So we're taking notes of that. And then Bob kind of asked, what did Colmar Manor Council say? And the short answer is that they liked route number 1, which would be sort of the biggest creation of a trail. And they actually, we brought up the route number 3, which goes through their property, and they were okay with the concept of doing that. But of course, they preferred a new trail, a new opportunity for people to really connect with their environment and their community and the landscape. So they did seem enthusiastic about that. Natalia, any of that you need to follow up? No?
Nope.
Great.
That was
Other questions? We are right now at 8:07, so we're kind of pushed to our time frame that we were hoping for. I'm willing to take one more question or comment if folks have it. Give you 10 seconds here. Oh, Fort Lincoln Cemetery. Thanks, Bob. Bob asked the relationship with Fort Lincoln Cemetery. So this is where I would insert an eye roll emoji to indicate that the Fort Lincoln Cemetery owners are not spectacular to work with. Certainly as part of the history, they're interconnected. And we actually talked about interpretive signage that could possibly go along the access road as you look into the cemetery. It is one of the better views of where you can see the mausoleum, and it's very historic and very important. But the actual owners of the property are a little bit more difficult to work with. So we haven't taken it as far as perhaps we would like to. And that's actually one of those things on Kirsten's action plan that is going to be something that we continue to work on. Yes, there is a boundary stone directly across from the cemetery. So we know there's lots of history in there, and the little chapel is amazing, but we're not digging ourselves too deeply into that. So Natalia, do you have any final comments that you want to make?
No, I greatly just want to say that I greatly appreciate the feedback and the comments, and we look forward to continuing with the completion of the concept plan.
Thank you, and really a big thank you to Natalia and her team that's here, Tomas and Victoria and Daniel, and thank you for doing this work. Again, we are not finished with this. This is just essentially the first step in a very long process to potentially get some type of trail and some type of interpretation. We're going to continue to work with folks at Park and Rec and the community, and we're going to try to see what we can do to accomplish this. It's an important part of the conversation we had about the War of 1812 and the history in this area, but it's also an important conversation about the future of the community and its connections with things. So I look forward to more conversations. And again, Kirsten is our Heritage Programs Manager and is the one managing this process. And Grace is our Trail Tourism Coordinator. And is going to be looking at how this connects into the communities, such as our businesses, the businesses that are located right near the trail. And we're going to continue to try to move this forward. So, thank you for the comments that are coming in on the chat about getting it accomplished and how we move this forward. Marion, we can chat a little bit about the CTC. So thank you everybody for being here tonight. Again, this has been recorded, so we will get you a copy of this and we will send it out to the wider group. So please don't hesitate to ask us questions, and thank you all. If I can have the staff and Natalia's team stick around for an extra minute, and we'll have an after conversation. So thank you to everybody that attended tonight, and we will get a copy out to everybody. Thanks. Turn off the recording.
Thank you.
Thank you.